Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. I would like to thank Hedayah and its enabling partners for allowing me to be here. It's lovely to be able to catch up with others, colleagues and fellows and friends who are here today working in this domain. I'm going to talk a little bit about mitigating the threat of AI-enabled terrorism with AI tools. So first of all, I wanted to introduce my center. I work at the Maison de la Paix, and as you can see, I have a very nice neighborhood of other international organizations working with me. So my presentation will be very much a global perspective, looking at how international players are also looking at this field. At the center, we do education, we facilitate diplomatic dialogue, we do shadow diplomacy, we do policy research, and we inspire. We have Creative Spark, where we help inoculate young organizations. And we are also a global community of over 10,000 alumni, and we are 30 years in the business next year, and we train about 174 countries. So my presentation will be in two parts. First, I will talk a little bit about the bad and the good, and then the good, like we heard this morning. And then I will offer some conclusions. First of all, just to give you sort of a head start, the World Economic Forum has highlighted that misinformation and disinformation is one of the top 10 global risks now. But in the long term, 10 years up, you can see that misinformation and disinformation is still with us, and the adverse outcomes of AI technologies is also on their radar. So it is one thing that we must focus our energies on. And we saw with the Bletchley Declaration, which was signed in November 2023, that indeed the world is watching and worrying about AI's dark side. They are working together, and you can see all the collaboration of over 27 states in the EU on how to identify AI safety risks, looking at how building respective risk-based policies, looking at transparency by private actors in developing AI, and looking at tools for safety testing. I think it's really important that this happened, and it's a very positive development. I wanted to highlight a really interesting case on a frosty morning in 2021, armed with overconfidence of youth, and a loaded crossbow, a 19-year-old child made his way to Windsor Castle. He was ready to assassinate Queen Elizabeth. And this was one of the first times where an artificial intelligence-powered chatbot had an influence on a young man who had basically connected with this online companion that he himself created. He had exchanged over 5,000 messages with this online companion and literally built a romantic relationship with it. And what is really interesting about this is how chatbots now can literally adopt and respond to individuals and literally say what the individual wants them to say. And this is a really kind of interesting and worrisome kind of new development. And as we can see, and we will hear a lot more about this later this afternoon, about the world of gaming and also of characters within this space. As you can see, there are many different ways to talk to characters online, and I think this is something that we should keep our eye on. So now I want to talk about the big picture. I teach at the Paris School of International Affairs, Sciences Po in Paris, and one of the things I tell my students is counterterrorism is important, but the biggest game in town is geopolitics and the wars and struggles that are happening globally. And who will win the AI game is really the biggest story in town. Who will win the keys to the castle, if you think about it, in quantum computing. That is really the strategic game that we are seeing now in the global world. So I wanted to highlight a little bit of the war between Russia and Ukraine. Why am I doing that? Well, it is one of the first wars that is generated AI war. It is also the first war that is looking at, is using commercialized satellites. It's the first war where there's intelligent killer robots involved. And it has an impact on how wars are being waged. But what is really important about this war is the terrorists are watching and listening and learning. So what's very interesting about this war is that it's a very innovative war. We see makeshift factories. We see young people getting involved, building drones, toy drones that they can buy online from Amazon. We see Ukrainians being entrepreneurs, engineers, using code online, components that they can pick up from Raspberry Pi, things that they can buy at hardware stores, at Best Buy. It has really created a situation where it's a do-it-yourself war where everyone is involved, and not just, of course, the forces on each side, but it's the community, it's people, it's even children who are getting involved. Just to give an example, it's also the first 3D printing war. There are over 20 countries that are 3D printing for the Ukrainian effort, and they are all over. They're creating life-saving gadgets. They're creating casings, magazine clips. Again, learning, watching, listening. That's what the terrorists are doing with this war, because these are all ideas. Why not think about beehives of terrorist groups all around the world creating their own 3D weapons together? So this kind of technology we need to keep an eye on, because they are also keeping an eye on it. This is also the first corporate war, in a sense that the three major companies, SpaceX, Palantir Technologies, and Microsoft, are deeply involved in protecting and helping build, keep Ukraine safe. We saw that with it is also, if you look at SpaceX, for example, it has helped Ukraine have high-speed internet from the outset of the war. Palantir Technologies provides Ukraine with advanced data analytics software for battlefield intelligence. Microsoft has provided cybersecurity support, protecting Ukraine's government, institutions, and military from cyber attacks. All these companies, if it weren't for them, Ukraine would have been lost very early on, and they have really come to their rescue. But at the same time, these corporates have exorbitant power. If you look at Elon Musk, and I just wanted to highlight, he has donated over 25,000 Starlink terminals from his SpaceX company to the war effort. But at the same time, as these technology companies grow, we as nation states have maybe legislative power over them, but at the same time we are largely dependent on them for our own security, for our intelligence, for our cybersecurity, for our everyday life. So at the same time, they're holding the strings of power. So Musk is I think, an extraordinary example of one person, one company that has reached such a position that at any moment of the course of the war in Ukraine, he can decide what its outcome will be, just by his technological power over Ukraine. So generative AI, we know, is now new in a sense that it can create new content, new images, new audio, new video, and we know all the different types of programs that can also simulate conversations with humans. We see now that it can also create images. I needed an image for one of my Geneva security debates, and I just asked ChatGPT to make it for me. So it's extraordinary. It's incredibly interesting and fun, but of course it's also very challenging. But that's why we have AI for Good. And I wanted to highlight AI, the AI Summit, and already mark your calendars, please, 8 to 11, 2025. It's going to happen. It's one of the most extraordinary organizations in the world, in a sense that it is looking at the positive part of AI for good. I feel like we're all talking about the negative, but it looks at how AI can do so many different things. It's working with 40 different UN 40 different organizations plus UN organizations, and it's looking at how to deal with poverty, how to deal with deforestation, how to deal with crises, climate change. It is looking at so many different ways to help humanity, which is really helpful and very hopeful. And it wants to accelerate the progress of the Sustainable Development Goals. And it's literally trying to look at how AI will change and help the SDGs. So it's a very important organization, and I hope that we all can somehow find ways to partner with them in our space as well. So one of the things I wanted to also highlight is, of course, the misuse of new technologies. Gaming, we will have a huge session on that, but we can see already from the UNCCT report that extremists are using Sims and Minecraft to allow players to experience the Christchurch massacre. We see Roblox extremists are known to have created already ethno-states. So right-wing extremists and terrorists are deeply involved in already the gaming world. But at the same time, we can use this space to facilitate our PCV efforts. We can use AI-powered avatars to train to de-radicalize or provide off-ramps to individuals who have already started going down the radicalization tunnel. So this, of course, this prevention we have to be hand in glove with GiveCT and other organizations who have been the front line on AI years before ChatGPT, working on AI already to deplatform extremist organizations off internet company platforms. So one of the most important things, of course, is when you do this kind of avatars, you have to safe-proof them. Another idea is looking at AI and predictive analytics, AI to be used for predicting potential terrorist attacks. We have to be very careful about this because I don't know if you've read the Minority Report, but sometimes if you look at that book, it talks about how you think that you can make a crime-free space, but in fact, AI might be then considering that you might be the problem. So it's really important to make sure that that we look at AI and predictive analytics very carefully, and that we consider human rights and privacy when we create these types of new predictive AI tools. Practitioners must always consider the human rights implications and mitigate a failure of imagination by serious red teaming everything that they do in AI's utilization. There's an AI code of practice that has been created. It's in the works. The code will be available by April 2025. It will guide AI model providers in complying with the AI Act, in promoting the ethical use of AI technology. So this is all very good. That image, by the way, was created by ChatGPT. Really interesting what they think of. One of the things I also want to highlight is corporates are making a lot of money. Just as an example, you can see here, revenue per minute. I, of course, embrace them in the sense that they should get more into the biz of helping us in the PVE space. I know they're trying hard, but they could try even harder. Awareness building. We need a whole of government and whole of society approaches, whole of institution, as we learned from today as well, bringing in technology companies, but also getting governments to provide and support national, local level training programs to teach people. A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes. That's what Mark Twain said. And we are living now, because of disinformation, misinformation, in a post-truth or truth decay society. So it's really important that we're careful about how misinformation and disinformation is helping to deteriorate some of our Western attitudes, group grievances, quality of information, fractionalized elites, political democracy, press freedoms, and equitable distribution are all going down according to the Institute for Economics and Peace. So we need to work on AI, we need to stop misinformation and disinformation, but it's a global thing. We see that the Koreans, the Chinese, EU, the US, everyone is in the biz in trying to fix AI and bulletproof AI. The EU AI law has just been created. What was really interesting for me is to look at the lower minimal risk of AI to chatbots, AI-enabled computer games. I think all those who work here on AI computer games would argue that this is not a low or minimal risk domain. So my final 6 takeaways are: lesson 1, AI is a force multiplier. AI will greatly empower violent non-state actors enormously. It is being used in wars worldwide, and terrorists are watching and learning. Lesson 2, AI is being used by extremists. It will be used in tandem with multiple other emerging technologies, and especially the adoption of AI technologies is global. Lesson 3, AI can potentially destabilize our societies. We've seen that with truth decay, misinformation, disinformation. AI can make that even more powerful. Lesson 4, we need to harness AI for good. AI can improve counterterrorism in multiple ways, and we can build a global cooperation for the good AI. And lesson 5, we need to create new rules for the AI road, ensure human rights and privacy aren't violated. And finally, lesson 6, we need to inspire new research with clear terminology and a consolidated framework for analysis. And we need to build global cooperative security. So thank you, Hedayah, for bringing us all together here in London. I'm delighted to be with you today. Thank you so much for your attention.